Hello there folks, my name is Dan Bell and today we're going to go through the process of creating a simple duration-based project schedule. And duration-based project schedules are easier for most novice schedules. They're more instinctive to the average user and they're easier to manage because they require less work to estimate and less work to track. Okay. They do have some drawbacks from an accuracy perspective. However, for novice users, they are definitely going to be the crawl of the crawl, walk, run methodology. So they can be very helpful from that perspective. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to launch Microsoft Project. And if you're familiar, you've launched it before, you know what this particular process is right here. I can either connect locally, computer, work with MPP files, or I can connect to a project online project server instance. So I'm going to do the latter, connect to project online, select it, click OK, and then Microsoft Project's going to launch. We're going to get right into this. I am going to utilize a blank project. Notice this is the start screen that we're looking at here. There's a lot of different Office project templates available for me here. There's an Enterprise tab here. You'll note a link. If I do have Enterprise templates available in my project online instance, I can select one of those and use them. For the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to select featured and select blank. Okay, with blank project selected and in my view, first thing I want to do is set some project definition options here. Setting the project start date. Some customers I still see today, and it's quite common because project isn't the most intuitive application, right? It's quite common to see people enter a start date in the first task of the project. You don't have to do that actually. What we want to do to set the project start date, navigate to your project ribbon, right? So you'll see you have a task ribbon, you have a resource and a report ribbon. You also have a project ribbon. From the project ribbon, select project information. Within that project information dialog box, the first thing you're going to notice here is start date. This is where we set the start date of the project. I'm going to select May 1st for my start date. Select it. That's all I care about right now is the start date of the project. There, with that selected, I'm going to click OK. Now the next thing I'm going to select here. Another thing that we see people do quite often is enter a task name here that represents the entire project. And they'll put the project name here, and then the start date, the finish date, the cost, the work. They will represent the overall metrics of the entire project. Well, again, project takes care of this for you. It's just that project doesn't insert the project summary task by default. You have to do it. Therefore, if I navigate to my Format tab, and then all the way to the right, you'll see something called Project Summary Task. If you click that checkbox, you'll notice that we have a Project Summary Task inserted, right? So there it is. There's that summary project level task for you. You don't have to enter it. Great. All right, one more thing we want to take care of before we get rolling into this project. Let's go ahead and navigate to File, top left, Options. It's going to be the bottommost item in your action pane there. And that brings up the project options, and you'll notice there are a number of different pages here. We're looking for the schedule page. And what we're going to do from the schedule page is we're going to go down to the scheduling options for this project. The one thing we want to do is make sure that the default task type for this project is set to fixed duration, because remember what we said, right? We said we're creating a duration-based project schedule. Therefore, we want fixed duration. And currently it is fixed duration. The other options are fixed units, fixed work. We're going to leave fixed duration and click OK. All right, great. We took care of those options. We're good to go and to get started. Now, let's get rolling and answer some tasks. We're going to do design. And what we're going to do is we're going to perform, I think we're going to perform some discovery. We're going to define the test plan. Let's try that again. And then what are we going to do after that? We're going to create we're going to create the requirements document. Then we're going to review and approve deliverables. And then finally, we're going to put a milestone in for design complete. Typically, so what we're doing is this: summary task, design, and then we're going to have detailed tasks under it. Typically, a summary task is going to represent some type of deliverable. Design is representing a deliverable of a requirements document. Typically, it's also best practice to have a milestone represent the completion of the deliverable, design complete. That's what this entire phase is representing in this case. Let's go ahead and we're going to select the detail tasks underneath design, navigate to the task ribbon, and then from the indent and outdent buttons, we're going to indent these under design. And now you can see the relationships here. We have the phase design, perform discovery, define test plan, create requirements document, review and approve deliverables, and then design complete. That's what we're looking for here. Great, let's get going. Build is next. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that back out because since I already indented those tasks, project's going to think I want to continue to keep things indented. We're going to write some code. Your coder's always going to do some testing, right? Internal. Build complete, right? And then we're going to go, right? So we're doing a DBTD, design, build, test, deploy. We're going to execute the test plan. Then we're going to review, incorporate feedback, retest. Then test will be considered complete. Then finally, we deploy. What do we do here? Well, I'm sure folks do it different. We typically prepare for deployment. And that can include, it can be multiple small items, checking with the customer, making sure things are ready on their end and so forth. There's going to be some training because in this particular case, DBTD, in this case, is going to consist of some kind of software product. After we train the end users, we're going to deploy, literally deploy it, say, the system is now online and active. Please start using the system. We'll monitor the system. What that means is we're going to monitor the system and make sure there are no errors. If there are errors, we're going to clear them up. Also, we're going to do user check-ins to make sure users are becoming acclimated with the tool. And then finally, we'll consider deployment complete. That's the milestone for the deliverable of deployment, right? So we talked about each phase represents a deliverable. The milestone at the end of the phase represents the completion of the deliverable. Let's go ahead like we did in design and indent the tasks. Right, so notice what I'm doing. I'm selecting, and you can either select one at a time and indent them. You can control click and select them to indent them, whatever you're more comfortable with. Click that indent button, deploy, click and drag, select every single one of them and indent. All right, great. Let's go ahead now and enter in, again, we're doing duration-based scheduling here, right? So it's not like I'm going to think like a actual resource who's doing discovery, which I would typically do myself and say, well, discovery is literally going to take me X number of meetings with the customer, to define what this system is going to encompass. I'm actually going to think of, well, it's probably going to take me perhaps 2 weeks. Now you can estimate in hours, weeks, months, and so forth, and you just use the first letter of whatever increment you're going to be estimating it. Therefore, if I'm doing 2 weeks, I can do a 2W. Now to define the test plan, this is probably going to take maybe 1 week. To create the requirements document is literally probably going to take about I think it's going to take about 3 days in duration given other commitments. Reviewing and approving the deliverables, let's hope that takes only 1 day. And then we'll consider design complete when we get sign off on the deliverables. Remember what we said, this is a milestone. To create a milestone in the tool, a couple ways to do it, but the easiest way is to enter 0 duration, enter a 0, and notice what happens in the Gantt chart. You get a diamond there. If you hover over it, you'll see the pop-up dialog says milestone task design complete. Great. That phase is done. Write code. What's that going to take? That's not what we wanted. We wanted 1 month, but what we'll do is this. take the easy road. 4 weeks. Internal testing. Internal testing is probably going to take about 1 week. Then we have to consider build complete, and what's that again? That's a milestone, right? And that's a 0. Execute test plan. That's going to take about a week. Review, incorporate feedback, and retest. We're going to put that at another week. Finally, prepare for deployment. We're going to do that 2 days. Train end users. 1 day, deploy to end users. 1 day, we're going to monitor the system for 2 weeks. User check-ins, 4 weeks. Again, milestone at the end, considering that that deliverable produced as part of deployment is complete, enter your 0. And there you go. That's all done, all taken care of. The next thing we're going to do in this particular case is create relationships between our tasks. Okay, because you'll notice something really interesting in the Gantt chart is that all the tasks are starting on exactly the same day, which is an impossibility. That can never happen. Therefore, let's go ahead and create relationships. We're keeping this simple. We're creating finish to start relationships with all our tasks in this particular case, although we can create other relationships, start to start, finish to finish, start to finish, and so forth. So let's go ahead and do it. There are multiple ways to do this here. I can click on the first task and then control click on the others, select them all at the same time. And then you'll notice in my task ribbon, task is currently selected. Then in the schedule section, there's a chain link. Click that chain link and look what happens in the Gantt chart. All the relationships are created. Let's shrink that Gantt chart down a little. Design is taken care of. My predecessor, successors are taken care of here. There's another way to create your relationships. Let's look at build for a moment. Let's look at write code and internal testing. The predecessor of internal testing is write code. The row number of write code is 8. I could come over here to the predecessor column and put an 8 in the predecessor column for internal testing. Build complete, predecessor for that is 9. It's as easy as that, okay? So build is complete. Let's go ahead and take care of test. I'm going to go ahead and hit the mouse button, click down and then drag to test complete, let go, and then do the same thing. Click that chain link, creates my relationships once again. And it looks like I neglected to create a milestone there. Let's go ahead and enter a 0 for test complete. And then last but not least, do the same thing for deploy. Click, hold, drag, release on deploy complete. Chain link, and there we go. Now we have the relationships within the phases. Now we have to create the relationships between the phases. Build cannot start until design is complete, right? So what did I say? Design complete, build can start. Writing code is the start of build. Notice that I didn't make a relationship, or I'm not considering making a relationship to the summary task. That's a no-no. Don't make relationships to summary tasks. Make them to the detail tasks within the summary tasks. Click the chain link. And there you can see now we have relationships between design and build. There you go. Testing can't start until build is complete, right? Build complete, test starts. Chain link in the task ribbon. Now we have our relationship between build and test. Deployment can't start until testing is complete. Test is complete. Deployment is starting. Chain link. And there is my full work breakdown structure. Okay, it's all in place. We're getting very, very close at this point. Now there's one more thing we need to do before we can consider the schedule ready to execute. And that's assign resources. Right now I'm working in a project online environment. I'm going to use the build team functionality. If you're working in a local Microsoft project MPP environment, you would go to your resource sheet and type in the names of the resources you're going to use. In my case, I can either navigate with the hotkey of Control T. The other thing you can do is you can go to resource ribbon, add resources, and then build team from enterprise. Both are going to get you to the same place. When I do that, it's going to bring up my build team from enterprise dialog box. You can see it here. And on the left are all the resources in the organization that I am able to see. And on the right are the resources that are a part of the team in this project. And of course, you can see there are currently no resources on the team because I've not added any. Now there are a few different ways I can go through adding resources here. There are filters. I can say, well, show me resources who have a certain amount of availability between a certain time frame, or I can even get more intricate and say, show me resources whose primary role contains a certain value. Therefore, there are certain things I can do to get very complex, very sophisticated with my searching. However, in this case, I'm just going to select a few resources, just keep things easy. We'll select those resources. Click the Add button, add them from the left to the right. Now you can see I have a team. Click OK. You can't tell right this minute, but the resources are now on the team. The way I can tell for sure is if I look at this resource name column, click on the down dropping arrow, now you can see there are the names of the resources I just added to the team of the project. If you just typed in resources names on your resource sheet, you get the same behavior. Now I can assign resources. I can do it a couple different ways. I can tick the check boxes like so, and then click off. And now you can see they're currently assigned, and you can see that they show up in the Gantt chart. Another way you can do this is you can actually click from the resource ribbon, the Assign Resources toolbar button, and that brings up my Assign Resource dialog box. And I can just continually select the task, select the two resources that should be assigned, click the Assign button, and then you'll notice that the resources get assigned. I can even do more than one task at a time. Maybe David is doing the work of both those tasks. Okay. Let's go down to write code. Who's writing the code? Well, I think Christoph's writing all the code in this case. Christoph's also doing the internal testing. Then we consider build complete. Who's executing the test plan? It's going to be Alex and Amy. We'll assign both those resources. Reviewing and incorporating feedback. It's going to be both Alex and Amy, but we're going to add Ari to it as well to help the planning. And finally, preparing for deployment. We'll add these two resources. Training end users will go ahead and be David and Christoph. Deploy to end users. We're going to consider the whole team be involved to a certain extent, so I'll select them all. And if you're not noticing what I'm doing, I'm actually clicking in this first column, and in some instances I'm clicking, holding, and dragging, and then letting go to select one or more resources, and then just clicking this Assign button. And it's assigning one or more resources in this case. Monitoring the system, that can be, we're going to select just Alex in this case. And then user check-ins, we'll go ahead and make Christoph. And now you can see it looks like we have resources assigned to every task. I'll click close here. Those are assigned. We have resources assigned there. Now we shouldn't have anything assigned to our milestones. That's what I'm checking here, and we do not. That's a good sign. Therefore, things look good so far. My last check before we consider this project good to go is let's go ahead and check the critical path. We'll go to the Format tab, and Format ribbon, and from there I'll select the critical tasks checkbox. And what you can see is you can see all the tasks that represent or are part of the critical path. The critical path represents a situation where any task slips one way or the other, it will affect the outcome of the project. So all the projects do have relationships, they're all connected. We can consider this project ready to go. What you might want to consider if you're not currently using them is baselining your project. Baselining is something that will be good to get used to using. It's a great way to have kind of a target to shoot for. It's basically like, this is what we said the project was going to complete on, the scope of the project, the hours of the project, the cost of the project, finish and start dates of the project, and this can be the target that you're shooting for. You can also use it to help you incorporate lessons learned. If you constantly are missing dates, constantly coming in over budget, over hours, you'll just know that maybe we should consider revising the estimates in this template or something like that. Therefore, I'm going to save a baseline from the project ribbon. Go ahead and from the schedule section, you notice there's a set baseline section. I can click on set baseline. It'll bring up the set baseline dialog. It already has the default baseline selected. We can talk about more baseline options in another video. The default baseline anyway is the one with that number after it. Click OK. Therefore, we currently have a baseline selected. To confirm that, you can switch to a tracking Gantt. just go ahead all the way to the left. You'll notice the name of the Gantt chart here. When you're all the way to the left, right click. It brings up the ability to switch to a different view. This is the quickest way to switch to different views. Tracking Gantt's right here, kind of in the middle of the road there, and select Tracking Gantt. And if you can't currently see your Gantt chart, just put your cursor in one of the tasks in the Gantt chart there. Then from the task ribbon, click on Task. In the editing section, which is all the way over to the right, you'll see this Scroll to Task toolbar button, picture of an arrow over a Gantt chart bar. Click that. That brings your Gantt chart bar into focus. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click in the Gantt chart bar area. Just click in it. You really can't tell you're clicking in it because nothing really changes much, but I'm putting focus in there, and then I'm going to click the zoom out. The zoom out's in the bottom right. I'm just going to shrink that Gantt chart so I can see the whole thing. And there's your finished project schedule ready to execute. Now let's assume that we're executing this project schedule. You want to track it, manage it and track it. You're meeting with your team members. You have weekly meetings. They tell you, you go around the table and, okay, so how complete are you on your task? And they can tell you, well, 25% complete, because for the most part, if you're using a duration-based schedule, you're going to probably utilize percent complete as your method of progressing your project. Therefore, you probably have your weekly meetings, and they report the amount of progress that they've completed, the team members, and then you would subsequently go back to your project schedule and progress the schedule. Before you do that, I'm going to save my project, and I'm going to click the Save button here. I'm going to call this my demo duration-based schedule, and click Save. That's something I should have done earlier. Save often, save frequent is usually the term. You'll notice in the bottom right, the save status is alerting me to where are we with this save. Right now the project is being saved to the draft schema in the database. Therefore, if you tried to look at it in Project Center and Project Online or Project Server, you would not see it. You actually have to publish the project to see it in Project Center, which I have not done yet. Therefore, we're still at 0. And this would probably be a normal thing. A lot of project managers would not publish their project till it's ready for prime time. Therefore, since I did baseline it, I probably would consider it ready to be viewed by the rest of the stakeholders. I navigate to File, click the large Publish button, and I'm probably, depending on how your system's set up, you may see this dialog box giving you an option. In my case, it's giving me an option to either not create a project site or to create a project site here. You see that. Many times it won't give you an option. You'll just need to click the Publish button. In my case, I'm not going to create a project site. I'm just going to click Publish. And you'll see a little bit different status indicator in the bottom right. Now it's saying Publish and the percent complete. You'll see it finish momentarily. We'll let the Publish go ahead and finish. And then we'll go through a very quick scenario of statusing the project and republishing it. But it's probably going to finish momentarily anyway. Let's get back to what we were talking about, the statusing. We had a status meeting. Theoretically, we talked to our team members. We're coming back to our project. All right, so let me go through that scenario. We're going to close out of this project. Every time we close out of the project, it's going to ask you to check it in. You're going to want to, for the most part, check it back in. And I'll close out a project. The scenario being, we had a meeting with the team. Now I'm coming back. I want to update my project, launch project, connect to the environment it's located in, click OK. Project launches, and then what I'm going to do is navigate and grab that project schedule. Probably going to click Open. Then you're going to select your environment. It's going to be here, the name of it. Click Browse, and just go ahead and locate the name of the project that you were just working on in your particular case. Okay, mine's going to be in my recents. So mine was demo duration based schedule. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And my project will go ahead and launch in Microsoft Project, and there it is. Okay, always going to open in read-only mode for the most part, unless you specifically request it to open in edit mode. There's my project schedule once again. What I'm going to do is switch to a view that I created that's going to show me the percent complete column. I'm going to right click in the far left, and I'm going to select that particular view. Let's go ahead and locate that. It's my int tracking Gantt. Go ahead and select that. And notice it's very similar to that other tracking Gantt, except that I added the percent complete column here. And what I'm going to do is bring my Gantt chart into focus. Remember, you just go ahead and click on a cell, and then from the task ribbon all the way to the right in the editing section, you click scroll to task. There is my Gantt chart. Go ahead and shrink it, bring it into view. The scenario being, I spoke with my team. We were working on stage design, the design stage. And it depends on how often my meetings actually were in this particular case, how often the status meetings. In this case, this task is 2 weeks long. If my status meetings are every week, theoretically, I should only be statusing this one task because it's in 2 weeks in duration. Therefore, if I'm 1 week into this project, hopefully I'm 50% complete. Let me back that out so you can see this again. What I did is I selected the row with Perform Discovery, and then from the task ribbon, you'll notice that there are these buttons in the schedule section of the task ribbon, 0, 25, 50, 75, 100. These will automatically change the percent complete of the task. I can either use these or I can manually change the percent complete by clicking on percent complete and clicking these up and down arrows, whichever way is more convenient to you, right? If I'm just going to use standard progressing methods, meaning they usually are rounded to a certain number, 0, 25, 50, 75, 100, it's very common, I would just go ahead and click that. I'm 1 week in, it just so happens I'm 50% complete on discovery, click 50% complete. That makes me 26% done in design, 6% complete in the overall project. If that's it for this status meeting, what I would do is I would publish the progress, because just saving it's not enough. Just saving it will save to the draft schema. That means only I'm going to see the changes. I want to publish it in order for everybody, every stakeholder, to see the updated information in all the different views for project. The other thing I want to point out is that notice within the Gantt chart, you can see the dark red notes the amount of progress that we made so far on this particular task. Envision for a second that we're several weeks in. Hopefully we're 100% complete on discovery. Maybe we're 75% complete on our definition of the test plan. And you can notice the differences here, right? So this is no longer on the critical path because it's complete. So it changed to blue, 100%. And now we're in definition of the test plan, 75% complete. You can see the amount of progress. And again, after every status meeting, after every time you update this project, file, publish. And again, you can see there'll be information over to the right here letting us know what's the published percentage on this project. And when it's done, we can just go ahead and file close out of the project and consider this complete. And you can see now it's synchronizing the data to the server. And that's what we want to do. We want everybody to see the same updated information in the project online environment. Okay. All right, folks. Well, I hope you learned something from this particular video. Enjoyed sharing it with you. Again, schedule-based planning, great for novices, easier to utilize. Look for another video talking about work-based scheduling. Enjoyed having you with me. Thanks very much, and we'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.